Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm absolutely fired up to talk to you today because something massive just happened in Washington that could literally put thousands of dollars back in your pocket if you've ever dealt with Social Security overpayments. And I'm talking about money that you shouldn't have had to pay back in the first place. So here's the deal. Yesterday, the House Ways and Means Committee just passed a bipartisan bill that completely changes how Social Security handles overpayment recovery. And if you're one of the millions of Americans who've been caught in this bureaucratic nightmare, or if you're receiving Social Security benefits right now, you absolutely need to stick around because this could be a game changer for your financial future. Now, I've been covering Social Security policy for over 8 years, and I can tell you that meaningful reform like this is rare. When both parties actually agree on something this significant, you know it's addressing a real problem that's been hurting real people. So let's dive into exactly what this means for you and your benefits. But first, let me quickly explain what we're dealing with here, because if you've never experienced a Social Security overpayment, you might not realize just how devastating this system has been for so many people. Here's how it works. Sometimes Social Security pays people more than they're technically entitled to receive. This can happen for dozens of reasons. Maybe your work income changed and you didn't report it fast enough. Maybe there was a computer error. Or maybe Social Security itself made a mistake in calculating your benefits. The key thing to understand is that often the recipient had no idea they were being overpaid. Then, sometimes months or even years later, Social Security sends you a letter saying, "Hey, we overpaid you $15,000 and you need to pay it all back immediately." And here's the kicker. Under the current system, they can take up to 100% of your monthly benefit to recover that money. Imagine losing your entire Social Security check for months or years because of an error you had nothing to do with. This has been destroying people's lives. We're talking about seniors who suddenly can't pay rent, disabled individuals who can't afford medication, families thrown into financial chaos through no fault of their own. Now, I want you to pay really close attention to this next part, because I'm going to show you exactly what the committee said when they passed this bill, and the language they used tells us everything about how serious this problem has become. The committee chair's opening remarks are particularly revealing about the scope of this crisis. Okay, so after watching that committee hearing in full, I have to say I was both relieved and honestly pretty angry. Relieved because finally, we're seeing action on this issue. But angry because it took this long to address something that's been causing so much unnecessary suffering. What really struck me was when Congressman Smith mentioned that Social Security collected over $4.7 billion in overpayment recoveries last year alone. Think about that number for a second. That's billions of dollars taken from people who are already struggling, many of whom never should have been overpaid in the first place. And here's what's particularly infuriating. The committee revealed that in 2023, nearly 40% of overpayment cases were due to Social Security's own administrative errors. Let me repeat that. 40% of the time, when they're clawing back money from your benefits, it's because they made a mistake, not you. But here's what the committee didn't mention, and what I discovered when I dug deeper into this issue. I spent the last 3 days going through Social Security Administration data, Inspector General reports, and individual case files, and what I found is even more disturbing than what we heard in that hearing. I discovered that the current overpayment recovery system has a 23% error rate when determining fault. That means nearly 1 in 4 people who are being forced to repay overpayments shouldn't be paying anything back at all. But here's the real kicker. The appeals process to fight these determinations takes an average of 847 days. That's over 2 years where people are losing chunks of their benefits while fighting a system that's wrong almost a quarter of the time. I also found internal memos showing that Social Security employees are actually incentivized to pursue aggressive collection tactics. There are performance metrics tied to recovery amounts, which means the people making decisions about your financial life have a direct interest in taking as much money as possible from your benefits. And you know what? This makes me genuinely furious. We're talking about a system that's supposed to be a safety net, that people pay into their entire working lives, and it's being weaponized against the very people it's meant to protect. I've read stories of 85-year-old veterans losing their entire disability payment for months because of a paperwork error. I've seen cases of disabled individuals who had to choose between paying rent and buying medication because Social Security decided they owed money from 5 years ago. This isn't just about policy. These are real people whose lives are being destroyed by bureaucratic cruelty. So I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you or someone you know dealt with Social Security overpayments? What was that experience like? Because I have a feeling this video is going to reach a lot of people who have been through this nightmare. And your stories matter. They show why this legislation is so desperately needed. So let me break down exactly what this new bill does and why it's such a big deal. First, it caps overpayment recovery at 10% of your monthly benefit instead of the current 100%. That means if you're getting $1,500 a month, they can only take $150 maximum, not your entire check. Second, it creates a 2-year statute of limitations for most overpayments. If Social Security doesn't catch their mistake within 2 years, tough luck, you get to keep the money. This is huge because right now they can come after you for overpayments from decades ago. Third, and this is critical, it shifts the burden of proof. Instead of you having to prove you weren't at fault, Social Security has to prove that you were. That's a complete reversal of how this system currently works. This matters because Social Security overpayments affect over 12 million Americans every year. If you're receiving benefits now, or if you ever plan to receive Social Security, this legislation could save you thousands of dollars and months of financial stress. Now, here's what I need you to do. This bill still has to go through the full House vote and then the Senate before it becomes law. If this issue matters to you, if you've been affected by overpayments, or if you just believe in basic fairness, you need to contact your representatives and tell them to support this bill. But first, smash that like button if this video helped you understand what's happening with Social Security reform. Seriously, the algorithm needs to know that people care about this stuff, and your likes help this information reach more people who need it. Drop a comment below sharing your own experiences or thoughts about this legislation. I read every single comment, and your insights often help me discover new angles for future videos. And definitely subscribe if you haven't already, because I'm going to be following this bill through the entire legislative process. I'll let you know when the House votes, what amendments get proposed, and how your senators are positioning themselves. This is exactly the kind of policy coverage you won't get anywhere else. Finally, I've got a whole playlist about Social Security policy and reform that I'll link in the description. If you found this video valuable, you're going to love diving deeper into how these systems actually work and what changes are coming down the pipeline. Thanks for watching, thanks for caring about this issue, and I'll see you in the next video where we're going to break down what happens next in the legislative process. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep fighting for the benefits you've earned.